Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on YouTube. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it, especially if you love the movies?
Tango Shalom is now available on all VOD
major platforms. I think we messed that up.
Video on demand, or as they say in the trade, VOD.
VOD. Tango Shalom is now available on all VOD platforms,
which means
video on demand.
Look how you know. You must be a high school graduate.
I'm a college graduate.
Really?
Yes.
I got an honorary degree from Hofstra. Did you get an honorary degree?
No, I got a degree.
Oh, well, I got honorary. You know, I'm in the Jewish Museum.
What for?
What do you mean? As a famous Jew in the Bronx. I'm in the famous...
I'm in the Prospect Park in the Stones.
How big is the stone?
Observations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, Robert Meyer Burnett. I'm here with, if you're still half in the bag from this weekend, or you're living on the half pipe, or you're on the half shell, this is the Hollywood Half and Half, your 30-minute blast of entertainment news, hosted by yours truly. And let's just jump right into it. This was a story, actually, that was covered by YouTuber Just Some Guy a couple weeks ago. The comic book industry's next page turn is union organizing. This comes to us this morning from The Hollywood Reporter. Graham McMillan writes this. Former Marvel editorial staffer Alejandro Arbona appeared to have the perfect job. People always got really excited when they asked what I did, and I told them I worked at Marvel. But I would always counter, you have no idea of how hard and demoralizing it is. Yes, working for a comic book company is hard and demoralizing, folks. Arbona recalls, the hours are long, the work is overwhelming, and the pay is low. In the decades since Arbona left Marvel to work as a freelance writer and editor, workplaces in the publishing sector of the industry arguably haven't changed significantly. But on November 1st, staffers from Image Comics, home to Spawn, The Walking Dead, and the Savage Dragon franchises, formed a union called Comic Book Workers United, CBWU, with 10 of the 12 eligible staffers voting to organize and go public. The employees were assisted by organizers from the Communications Workers of America, a labor giant organizing workers across multiple industries. Of the 9 goals the CBWU lists on its website, there is an obvious through line, visible via repeated requests for transparency in terms of workload and employee expectations. The group asks for the opportunity to provide white glove attention for all the books we publish, in reasonable proportion to the actual quantity of output we generate. The CWA has been instrumental in the organization process, according to CBWU members. From the beginning, this has been an open process of identifying people's needs, goals, and concerns, and using that information to map out a working plan of improvement overall. Now, here's the thing. I don't necessarily mind that kind of a thing, organizing, union organizing. It's a very American thing to do. But some of the employees at this comic company want control over editorial content in the books themselves, which means they want oversight over what goes in the books, what the writers and artists will actually make. And I think that goes beyond their purview. But that's perhaps just me. So far, Image Comics has not acknowledged them or has given an answer, but we'll see what happens. Sources inside Marvel and DC say that for now there hasn't been increased discussion about unionizing, but it may simply be a matter of time. I can't even remember how many times my former Marvel coworkers and I floated the idea of unionization, our bonus says, at his time of the company. For us, it was just idle speculation and wishful thinking. Unfortunately, we always came to the same self-defeating conclusions about who'd join us, who wouldn't, and how the company would respond. So we'll see how that goes. This next story, I know everyone's going to be excited about this one. I mean, how can you not be? I mean, let's face it. Bridgerton. Ladies and gentlemen, filming has wrapped on season 2 of Bridgerton. That steamy show that everybody loves. Filming wrapped on the second series of Netflix smash period drama Bridgerton over the weekend, with the show set to air next year. Creator and showrunner Chris Van Dusen posted posted a photo of himself hugging two leads, Jonathan Bailey and Simone Ashley, declaring a wrap on season 2. So proud of this cast and crew who brought their A-games to work each and every day in this very challenging year, he wrote. And these two in this photo with me right here, words are not enough, coming in 2022. Bailey, who plays Anthony Bridgerton, also posted a photo of himself at the wrap party on Instagram saying his heart was full. The season 2 premiere has already aired for cast and crew, according to another of its stars, Nicola Coughlan, earlier this month. There's a Coughlin. The 10-part series will pick up, I don't know, I've never watched Bridgerton, but everyone loves it. The 10-part series will pick up a fresh set of scandals following the conclusion of season 1, which became Netflix's most watched show of all time and has only been recently eclipsed by Squid Game. Well, there you go. A 3rd and 4th season of the Shonda Rhimes Shondaland drama have already been commissioned. I mean, come on. Just because I don't watch Bridgerton doesn't mean millions of other people don't watch Bridgerton. It's a favorite show. People love it. And why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they? Our next story, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Did any of you go busting this weekend? It lives it up. This comes to us from Deadline. Nancy Tartaglione this morning, actually yesterday, talked about this, that Ghostbusters Afterlife, it's racking up the bucks, $60 million globally. There was a lot of holdover plays this session overseas, with one major new Hollywood addition, Ghostbusters Afterlife, which came in essentially on par with pre-weekend offshore projections at $16 million in 31 international box office markets. However, with domestics overperformance, the Jason Reitman-directed sequel tapped a better-than-expected $60 million global opening. In IMAX, the worldwide start was $4.7 million. In like-for-likes overseas, Ghostbusters Afterlife is currently tracking ahead of Free Guy, Jungle Cruise, and Cruella. Well, that's pretty good for Ghostbusters Afterlife, although I know there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, Rob, didn't this open less than the all-female 2016's Ghostbusters? Yes. I don't know what that means, but people have been pointing it out. I'll let you be the judge. The Ghostbusters franchise is generally considered more of a domestic play. The 1984 original was out before overseas was as impactful, and the 2016 reboot skewed to North America at 56% of the global box office. But with great audience exit domestically and a fair bit of runway, there's a lot of potential here. Sony hyped the movie for attendees at both Las Vegas CinemaCon and Barcelona's Cine Europe this summer. There are a number of markets to come, including France and Korea, Russia, and Spain, Australia, and Japan. The lead movie at overseas turnstiles for the studios this session was again Disney and Marvel's Eternals, which passed the $300 million global mark earlier this week, the 4th Disney film and the 9th MPA film to do so this year. That's Motion Picture Association. Over the current frame, it added $22.7 million from 49 offshore markets. That lifts the overseas cum to $200.3 million and worldwide to $336.1 million. There were no new debuts in the frame, while the Chloe Zhao-directed superhero Gods movie held the #1 spot in both Russia and Brazil, as well as the UAE, Lebanon, Portugal, South Africa, Taiwan, Thailand, New Zealand, and all other markets across Latin America, with the exception of Mexico. So that's pretty good. I mean, it's nice to see. I love to see genre movies making a lot of money. Ghostbusters Afterlife and Eternals rocking the box office. Always a good thing. At least I'd like to think so. This is kind of an interesting story. Eddie Redmayne, Eddie Redmayne, actor Eddie Redmayne, he expresses regret for his role as a trans character in The Danish Girl, which he was nominated for an Academy Award for. Bruce Herring writes about this in Deadline. Eddie Redmayne says taking on his Academy Award nominated role as a trans character in the 2015 The Danish Girl was a mistake. Redmayne, who played transgender artist Lily Elby in the film, said he wouldn't take that job if it was offered to him now. The role won him a Best Actor nomination. Critics have complained that the role should have gone to a trans actress. Redmayne heard and now agrees. Redmayne spoke to the Times of London about the issue while touting his stage performance in an upcoming version of Cabaret. I love Cabaret, the movie. Bob Fosse rules. Critics have complained that the role should have gone to a trans actress. No, I wouldn't take it now. I made that film with the best intentions, but I think it was a mistake, he said. The bigger discussion about the frustrations around casting is because many people don't have a chair at the table. There must be a leveling. Otherwise, we're going to carry on having these debates. Redmayne has become a defender of transgender people. Last year, the star of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them joined others condemning author J.K. Rowling, the author of the book on which the film is based. Rowling has been under fire for her comments on the transgender community. Mr. Redmayne, of course, is entitled to his opinion, but isn't an actor's job to play somebody that they're not? Call me crazy, but that's kind of what I've always thought. And if we have to demand that actors actually be in real life the people they're playing, that's a little wild, isn't it? Like, do you have to be an adventurer that's traveled, that's plundered tombs to be Indiana Jones? I don't know. It's an interesting philosophical debate, not one that an entertainment news show is going to solve, but it's an interesting thought experiment. So I do support Mr. Redmayne's standing up for the transgender community, because God knows they've needed people to stand up for them for a very long time. And I like The Danish Girl. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. This next story, Cinemark. Cinemark puts theater chains rivals on notice. Why not carry Netflix films? Let me just say, I watched Tick, Tick, Boom, Lin-Manuel Miranda's debut feature film over the weekend with Elizabeth. We watched it on Netflix. It is so good. I would say, now I have not seen Meet the Ricardos. I have not seen Licorice Pizza. I have not seen West Side Story. But right now, I would say that Tick, Tick, Boom is my favorite movie of the year. And I would say it's definitely, I would predict it could very well win Best Picture. I could be wrong because I haven't seen these other movies. But damn, is it good. Anyway, this comes from the Hollywood Reporter. Pamela McClintock wrote this. It was published this morning. Netflix no longer is public enemy number one in the eyes of at least one mega theater circuit, Cinemark. On November 12th, without revealing actual numbers, the exhibitor gushed in a press release that Red Notice is the most successful Netflix title it has carried. Before the pandemic, Cinemark, like major theater chain rivals AMC Entertainment and Regal Cinemas, largely snubbed Netflix titles since the streamer wouldn't abide by the 90-day theatrical window. That meant Netflix had to rely on a patchwork of 150 to 300 indie cinemas to play its films and to prove to talent that it cares about the theatrical experience. The extended COVID-19 pandemic has upended traditional windows. On November 5th, Netflix was hence able to book Red Notice, an action comedy starring Dwayne Johnson opposite Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot, and billed as the most expensive movie Netflix has ever made at a price tag of $200 million plus in 750 theaters nationwide a week before its launch on the streamer. That's not a token release. This strategy, which began in earnest over the summer when Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead played in 650 cinemas, wouldn't be possible without Cinemark, one of the country's three largest chains. Key regional circuits, Marcus Theaters and Harkins Theaters are also playing ball. Johnson, whose $7 company produced the film, gets to boast that the movie has gotten the widest theatrical release in Netflix history. We love when we have the opportunity to create a cultural moment and comprehensive entertainment experience around a film, Cinemark Chief Marketing and Content Officer Wanda Gearhart Fearing said in the company statement. In the past year, Cinemark has shown more than 10 Netflix films in our immersive environment, and we look forward to testing financially viable models for both parties that have an exclusive theatrical window to eventize key films. Is that a word? Eventize? It's here, but she said it. I guess it is. Netflix isn't saying whether this strategy will continue for its other commercially minded movies. Sean Levy's upcoming The Atom Project, starring Ryan Reynolds, comes to mind, and has signaled out that there is no one-size-fits-all approach. All told, it releases about 30 movies a year in theaters at a time when smaller indie cinemas are struggling. While the issue of shortened windows is no longer as taboo, committing to a substantial marketing spend is key for many chains when it comes to a title getting a hybrid release. Sources say AMC and Regal, which both declined to comment, wouldn't play Red Notice in part because of this. Netflix certainly advertised Red Notice, but there wasn't the same sort of theatrical marketing campaign that Warner Brothers, for example, is waging for its 2021 slate, which is debuting simultaneously on the big screen and on HBO Max, or Disney with Disney Plus titles, or Paramount with its recent hybrid release of Clifford the Big Red Dog. Red Notice is fast on its way to becoming one of the most watched Netflix original movies of all time, according to a new measurement system unveiled November 16th. The new weekly rankings of Netflix films and TV titles is based on the number of hours viewed for a given title rather than the previous standard of a 2-minute sample. Red Notice was viewed 148 million hours in its first 3 days alone. Per the new metrics, the Sandra Bullock star Bird Box leads the list of top 10 most viewed Netflix movies of all time with 282 million hours, followed by Extraction with 231 million, The Irishman with 215 minutes, or I guess million, they said minutes here, it's a mistake, and The Kissing Booth 2 with 209 million hours. It doesn't make much sense for Netflix to report the grosses. I think it's still very much a test. If it was a wide national release, the situation might be different, says Wall Street analyst Eric Handler, who tracks exhibition sectors for MKM Partners. For Cinemark, they get a film with some big-name stars that should do better than whatever else they could put into their 8th screen in an 8-screen theater, even with limited advertising. Well, that's kind of neat. I mean, look, I would say this. Tick, Tick, Boom is a Netflix movie, and I know it is playing in theaters, and I really wish that I had gone and seen it in a theater because it's a buoyant film. It's a lot of fun. It's beautifully made, incredibly well directed, great music, great acting. The movie should be seen in theaters. That's just me. I mean, Netflix, hey, if you're going to go see it on Netflix, that's cool. I'm all for that. But I would rather see movies in the theater. That's just me. This next story, sort of interesting. 2 Fox News contributors quit, citing Tucker Carlson's January 6th series, The Voices of the Responsible are being drowned out by the irresponsible. Stephen Hayes and Jonah Goldberg, 2 longtime conservative commentators on Fox News, said they are quitting the network, concluding that the voices of the responsible are being drowned out by the irresponsible. They specifically cited Tucker Carlson's 3-part documentary, Patriot Purge, which ran on Fox Nation, which they said was a collection of incoherent conspiracy mongering, riddled with factual inaccuracies, half-truths, deceptive imagery, and damning omissions. And its message is clear. The U.S. government is targeting patriotic Americans in the same manner and with the same tools that it used to target Al-Qaeda. The series advanced a series of conspiracy theories about the January 6th siege on the Capitol, including that it was a false flag operation, that the left is hunting the right, and that there is a domestic war on terror orchestrated by the deep state. Hayes and Goldberg wrote that such claims were dangerous and that Carlson's series was only one in a series of instances of misinformation being advanced by the opinion side of Fox News. They wrote on their site, The Dispatch, over the past 5 years, some of Fox's top opinion hosts amplified the false claims and bizarre narratives of Donald Trump or offered up hang on, where was I? I just lost myself. Oh, yes. Okay, here we are. Over the past 5 years, some of Fox's top opinion hosts amplified the false claims and bizarre narratives of Donald Trump or offered up their own in his service. In this sense, the release of Patriot Purge wasn't an isolated incident. It was merely the most egregious example of a long-standing trend. Patriot Purge creates an alternative history of January 6th, contradicted not just by common sense, not just by the testimony and on-the-record statements of many of the participants, but by the reporting of the news division of Fox itself. itself. Patriot Purge ran on the subscription streaming service Fox Nation, but the trailer for the series drew pushback not just from figures such as Liz Cheney, but other Fox News personalities like Geraldo Rivera. The Anti-Defamation League also called the network not to run it. Fox News spokesperson did not immediately return a request for comment, but Carlson told the New York Times' Ben Smith, who first reported the departures, that it was great news and our viewers will be grateful. Hayes and Goldberg have been with the network since 2009. Carlson responded later with a tweet in which he again promoted Patriot Purge with a reference to Goldberg. And Tucker Carlson tweeted a picture for the documentary series with the quote, "The documentary series that drove Jonah Goldberg to an impotent rage." Well, it's nice to see that Fox News is very respectful to all of the people that work there. But what are you going to do? Go Tucker Carlson or not? At least people at Fox are willing to stand for their principles and stand up for, well, truth. That's a good thing. Here's another bit of political news. GoFundMe. The GoFundMe website where lots of independent filmmakers turn to find the budgets for their projects, or many creators actually. GoFundMe lifts a ban on Rittenhouse fundraisers after his acquittal. The GoFundMe website has announced its ban on fundraisers for Kyle Rittenhouse has been lifted following his acquittal on Friday. The site previously banned Rittenhouse legal defense fundraisers because he was accused of a violent crime. His exoneration in his trial on Friday cleared that hurdle. Quote, "If someone is acquitted of those charges, as Rittenhouse was today, a fundraiser started subsequently for their legal defense and other expenses would not violate this policy." The statement read, "A fundraiser to pay lawyers, cover legal expenses, or to help with ongoing living expenses for a person acquitted of those charges could remain active as long as we determine it is not in violation of any of our other terms and, for example, the purpose is clearly stated and the correct beneficiary is added to the fundraiser." However, reports indicate GoFundMe has wavered on a blanket ban in such cases. Quote, "We are monitoring for our site for related fundraisers to try and verify, as we do for all events that have widespread attention, that the funds are going to the intended recipient and that the fundraiser is within our terms of service." The GoFundMe statement on lifting Rittenhouse's ban said, "This process takes time and may slow down the withdrawal process. If the fundraiser does violate our terms of service or does not directly benefit the intended beneficiary, we will remove it from the platform." Although cleared of criminal charges, Rittenhouse could potentially face civil or federal civil rights lawsuits related to his shooting incident. He is also involved in a dispute over a $2 million bond posted by his former attorney, John Pierce. Interesting, with crowdfunding in the news, I'm always fascinated by what goes on there. So, kind of interesting. This next story, Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott is making a movie about Napoleon called Kit Bag. Ridley Scott has hit back at the Gucci family's criticism of his upcoming film House of Gucci, called for someone to get in trouble over the Rust incident, and revealed that his Napoleon biopic will start filming on January 15th. And Scott also gave updates on the TV versions of Alien and Gulp Blade Runner. Speaking to BBC's Today program, the 83-year-old director rejected comments from Patrizia Gucci that the upcoming MGM film, which will be released later this week, is, quote, "stealing the identity of a family to make a profit, to increase the income of the Hollywood system." Those are big words considering she had her husband murdered. Gucci made the comments several months ago. "I don't engage with that," said Ridley Scott. "You have to remember that one Gucci was murdered and another went to jail for tax evasion, so you can't be talking to me about making a profit. As soon as you do that, you become part of the public domain." Patrizia Gucci has also previously criticized the film, which stars Al Pacino, Lady Gaga, and Jared Leto, as representing her family as short, fat, and ugly. Well, I have seen House of Gucci, and while it wasn't as great as I wanted it to be, it certainly was wildly entertaining, and I thought Lady Gaga and Jared Leto crushed it. Meanwhile, in the short but wide-ranging interview, Ridley Scott slammed the decision to have live firearms on the set of Rust, which led to the accidental killing of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. A number of lawsuits have been filed over the fatal shooting. Scott said he would never have any live ammunition on his sets, preferring to use guns that aren't hollow but have a solid barrel. I don't know what a real gun or ammunition was doing on the set, he added. Someone's got to get in trouble for that. Next up for Scott is his Napoleonic drama Kit Bag, which he revealed to the BBC is to start filming on January 15th. He described the film from Apple Studios, which stars Joaquin Phoenix and Jodie Comer as Napoleon and his wife Josephine, as a monster film. On Alien and the Blade Runner TV franchises, he said both have now had pilots written for the shows and were being presented as 8 to 10 episodes each. Alien is to air on FX with Noah Hawley showrunning, while Scott hasn't previously discussed the Blade Runner TV show. I didn't know there was going to be a Blade Runner TV show. I don't know how I feel about that. There's, of course, the new Blade Runner animated series. The anime series is airing, but I didn't know that there was going to be a live-action Blade Runner TV show, which that's kind of interesting. But anyway, that is your entertainment news for today, Monday, November 22nd, for the Hollywood Half and Half. And what can I say? I can't even make it to 30 minutes today because it's Thanksgiving weekend or Thanksgiving week, and there's not going to be much entertainment news all week. But I'm going to be here for you. And if you want to suggest a story, you can always write to me on the Burnettwork.net website or contact me on Twitter via my DMs. I leave them open. Slide into those DMs and tell me if you want me to cover a story, because you can, and I'll even write you back. So anyway, if you're on the half shell, the half pipe, or still half the back from the weekend, this is your destination spot for a quick blast of entertainment news. This is the Hollywood Half and Half. I am Robert Meyer Burnett, and I hope you're all going to enjoy your Thanksgiving week, and we'll be here with entertainment news. I will see you later this afternoon with Robservations. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And with that, we will see you tomorrow.